technology portfolio. They are experts. They have their master's degrees, their PhDs. They worked on this policy and they took it to every possible expert to vet it. It went out to us and we gave them suggestions. We sat down for a full day and went through it line by line. It went through their own experts. I know they went out and discussed it with some students throughout the province in GSAs. Principals looked at it and it went around and around and it was perfected. Now, did we get everything in it that we wanted? Not everything, but it was a very strong policy and it was really a great policy. So that was finished being printed in 2020, but it didn't come out for the next year till 2021 because in the fall of 2021 it was vetted through the schools, through all the principals.
A policy which sets out requirements for all 7 school districts and 295 public schools to create a safe, welcoming, inclusive, and affirming school environment for all students, families, and allies who identify or who are perceived as 2S LGBT.
I happen to be a member of the New Brunswick Human Rights Commission. I wanted to show up today to show support for the Policy 713. And I want you to know that the Commission will be issuing an official public statement to the media first thing Monday morning to make sure that the message is sent loud and clear that all students should have the expectation to be safe in school. All students should be included. Equal rights. This is not new. This is the law. This is the Human Rights Act of New Brunswick. It's the inclusion policy. The policy has been working. It does not need to be changed. And ladies,
Drafted document outlining expectations for schools to create safer and more inclusive learning environments for LGBTQIA+ students. It provides guidelines for situations like washrooms, homophobic bullying, support for GSA groups, and for youth who have come out to their peers or to their teachers but who fear reprisal at home. The policy creates no new laws or rights that don't already exist under our human rights legislation. Instead, it provides clarity for how those rights should be applied in the school context.
In the news recently, Minister Hogan has talked about this policy supporting curriculum and they're having to review this policy to make sure it aligns with curriculum. Well, he's mixed up because Policy 713 is not a curriculum document. It is a document that was created to make a safe space and safe environment for students. So for example, just a few of the things that it says in there. It says things like schools will support having a GSA club if students want it. There's nothing in Policy 713 that says that teachers have to do this and teachers must make students do this. It's nothing to do with that. A lot of it is just if they want stuff. So if a student wants a GSA club in their school and they approach administration and say, can we start a GSA club? Just like if they were doing a Lego club and there's a teacher that will do it for them, they can't say no. And it wasn't that long ago that they could say, no, there's not going to be one of those clubs in our school. So they have to do that now. The school... also says that the schools will allow trans or non-binary students to use their own preferred names and pronouns. Again, that's not forcing every student in the school to change their pronouns, and there's a lot of rhetoric out there and a lot of misinformation. It's just, if there's a student that would like that, nobody can say no now. Okay? It says that schools will have at least one gender-neutral washroom. Can we not give kids one safe place to pee? Come on. We all know how fun locker rooms are, and yeah, I teach phys ed, and I know how fun locker rooms are. So it also talks about that homophobic and transphobic language or behavior will not be tolerated.
That though, I have to say, I'm always proud to work for teachers, but today I'm especially proud. And I want to send a special shout out to all the teachers assembled here, but especially Pride in Education. President. First off, we want to thank all of those who have reached out to support teachers with their kindness and support since the events of last Friday. The New Brunswick Human Rights Commission reminds all New Brunswickers that every person in New Brunswick is entitled to equal protection of the law and has equal rights to dignity, respect, and inclusion, regardless of age, marital status, family status, creed or religion, physical disability, mental disability, race, color, ancestry, place of origin, national origin, social condition, political belief or activity, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, and sex, including pregnancy. Teachers stand on the front lines of the intersection of these fundamental human rights in our classrooms each day. Teachers stand firmly on the foundation our Human Rights Code provides. It is our guide as we strive to be models of kindness, compassion, and respect within our schools and communities, and help all persons feel they belong, have value, and learn how to coexist peacefully, especially when we have differences.
Represents a group of teachers who have worked tirelessly in this province for more than a decade to develop informed policy, training tools, and resources for LGBT youth in this province. They've provided knowledge and guidelines for educators who want to engage with their students honestly, openly, and thoughtfully. They have provided invaluable learning and recreational opportunities for GSAs so that youth from across the province can come together and directly benefit from knowledge, community, and support.
Friday was the MBTA Council Day, and that happens every year where elementary teachers go to one part of the province, middle school and high school, and they do PL all day. We approached the MBTA and asked for permission to see if we could go to one school and do a full day event for K to 12 teachers on SOGI education. And so the teachers registered, and when they showed up, they had sort of an opening ceremony with us. In the first hour, they had 3 choices. They could choose where they wanted to go. If they were elementary focused, they could go to one session. If they wanted to know how to be a school champion, they could go to a different session. And we did, I think, 9 of those sessions throughout the day. I think that's what we did, yeah. It was sort of like the cherry on the top. Once we got to the point where we were educating educators, because we've always said we have to educate the educators to keep the students safe. So this applied to EECD back in February for funding, and as we always do, we always apply for funding for our GSA conferences. It takes quite a long time to get the official approval back, but once we get verbal approval, we start planning. So this is what happened with this conference. We applied in February. Shortly afterwards, we received word that it was moving forward, so we started buying all the stuff we needed, the merch and the memory cards and hiring speakers and that sort of thing, and we got it all done. We went to the Department of Education shortly before the council day, and we met there, and we spent the day at EECD planning and going over the budget and making sure the sessions were all tweaked and who's teaching this session and who's doing this session, that sort of thing. And we had it all, I guess, down to where we wanted it to be. About 4 days later, 9 days before the conference started, you may have seen because I've posted it. It's been a week of posting. I posted it online where we got a letter from the ECD saying thank you for applying, but we're denying your funding. Furthermore, we ask that you not present on Policy 713 because it's going under review, and as well, our EECD staff are not to be presenting at your conference. So the specialist educators were not allowed to educate. That's interesting. Every answer Minister Hogan gives doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Well, I think we've come to know that it's never going to make sense because I think it's more, as a journalist said to me this week, they said, do you think that it's just a philosophical difference? If it's not his personal opinion to review it, he had expert policy writers expert educational staff who it's their specialty, SOGI education. He had experts in PI who helped write it. He put it through principals. Every expert that you can possibly contact wrote it. And yet he doesn't know if it's meeting standards. So it sort of sounds like his opinion.
Yep.
He also said in one of his recent statements when he was videotaped, I love all these videotape things, they're great, where he said that they have to review it because they have to ensure that teachers are getting the proper training to be able to teach about gender, gender identity, and trans issues, the same as if you were teaching math or social studies. Well, if that's your concern, then why did you block them from getting educated last week? You muzzled your employees, the experts. And there were up to 85 teachers in our sessions waiting to get educated. And the Department of Education blocked them. And teachers came to me continuously, sometimes really upset because they used the wrong pronoun and that student's going to hate me now. And I'm like, no, it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. And so teachers want to be educated. They don't want to make mistakes because they don't want to harm kids. And so that's... We are mostly educators. We know that education is the key. Education is the key to everything. We know there's so much misinformation, disinformation, and rhetoric that's been coming up from the US for quite a few years now. And unfortunately, a lot of people believe it.
3 months ago, I accepted from the local library in Moncton to go read books to children. This is what I was wearing. I was wearing appropriate clothing. I read books about community, sharing, kindness. I even read my favorite book as a child, which is called La Soupe aux Boutons. Daisy Duck visits Uncle Scrooge. And she goes, I'm hungry, I had a long journey. Do you have anything to eat? He goes, no, I don't share anything with anyone. I don't have any food in my house. I have nothing for you. She goes, well, I can make soup with a button, a single button that I have in my pocket. And then together she goes, well, what if we had a little salt and pepper? I'm sure you have a little salt and pepper. And then he opens the spice cupboard that's full of spices. And then the soup starts smelling better and better, and he gets excited, and he puts more and more ingredients in it, and he's starting to stop hoarding his food, and he's starting to share it. And then at the end of the book, they realize they made too much soup. And she goes, what if we invite the community to have soup together? That's what I read to children, dressed like this. Since then, the group that's counter-protesting us today, the group that wants this revision of 713, this group also started a petition, Stop Drag Queens for Being Around Children. This group has also been assaulting us and harassing us, me and my colleagues that do drag, calling us groomers, pedophiles, and other... Yeah. And I'm a substitute teacher. I read books to your children almost every single week in the French and in the English district. I teach from kindergarten to grade 12. Madame Annabelle is very popular in the schools because I treat students with kindness, with respect, and for who they are. So maybe you're wondering why I'm talking about all this harassment that the drag community has received. It's because it's the same people. It's the same people there.
Instead of denouncing the queer phobia exhibited by protesters recently, there's a choice instead to review the provincial policy 713, giving credence to that hateful rhetoric that was on display outside of the Hanwell NBTA Council Day location. It's safe to say that all of us here share the feeling of discomfort that comes with watching the shift in rhetoric sweeping our culture right now. Much of this growing outrage comes primarily from a small group of parents and community members who have fallen victim to a disinformation campaign coordinated by hate groups posing as grassroots movements, who seek to infiltrate school boards and turn concerned parents against LGBTQ issues.
He doesn't seem to know what's going on in his own department, and he's worried that not just teaching about love and respect and acceptance and differences at a young age. So he might be getting calls, but we're getting calls too since this has happened. We have parents contacting us who are in distress. They're worried about their queer kids. They're worried about their trans kids. You know, students have come to trust and rely on this policy for the first time of all of my students. Students that I know, students that I went to their funerals, students that I drove home after our GSA meetings, students that died by suicide. And I can tell you, any teacher in this province that does the GSA work, they also know students who have died by suicide. This policy protects that, and it starts to put a stop to that. And just the distress of this going away this week has caused harm in a matter of days. We have to support those students and their families. When is it not the right time to teach love, kindness, respect, and acceptance? How do we move forward? Where are we? Well, if they weren't roaring so loud, I'd like to talk to them. And maybe there's people here. So I really do want to address the protesters, because I don't think that it's 100% their fault that they're so angry. Because they maybe have not had the opportunity to have the same education that we have had.
All of us need to know that we are safe at school. Teachers remain firm. The values that make our schools safe, accepting, affirming, and caring learning environments must be upheld. And to our government, rest assured, teachers are watching.
So I challenge you all. It's time to keep fighting forward.